Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I am your host. I am also an author. I am the author of Chakras, the Magnificent Seven, which I unfortunately still don't. I keep forgetting to get another copy, and I've run out of mine. I am also the author of a book that is all about helping grievers move forward through their grief. It's called Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And that's a book with lots of processes, articles, techniques to help people move through their grief so they don't get stuck in it. And in my newest book is one of my favorites, and it's called Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. And that, I think, is a little treasure because too many of us don't show up for our friends when they're hurting because we're afraid. We're afraid we don't know what to say. We don't want to make things worse. We don't exactly know what to do, what's helpful, what's not. And saying the right thing when you don't know what to say gives you hardcore, concrete suggestions of what's helpful to say and what is not helpful to say. So those are my 3 books. I'm also a speaker. And if you want to learn more about the work I do as a life transition coach, you can get that information at paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com. And if you'd like to learn more about this show, hear past shows, because we've had some amazing people on Change It Up, you can get that information. Also, you can get information about being a guest or a sponsor on this show on changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. Well, I am so excited about the theme we've been working with on our shows this month. We are talking about resiliency because, as I mentioned in my first show, I think it's critical for all of us to be able to move into resiliency because we've had a tough couple of years. We've had this pandemic. We've had political upheaval. We've got people hurting all over the planet. There's loss and grief in major abundance right now. And it's affecting all of us, whether it's affecting us as part of the collective consciousness or whether it's affecting you more personally. I know in my own life, there are people I love who have lost loved ones to COVID. There are people who have lost their work, their homes. There are so many things that have been going on. We are being challenged pretty much on a daily basis. Even the children went through major upheaval in their schooling, and they're back now, but things are still different. Life as we knew it, I believe, in many ways, is forever changed. And so we need to dig down in there. We need to find our well of resiliency. I think that's the key. I think it's this resilience that makes us keep going. It's this resilience that keeps us bouncing back, trying it again, or trying it a different way. And so my goal in this month of shows is to bring guests on to help us find that resilience, to help us learn how to access it and grow it. And today is no exception. Today, I am going to be introducing you to an exceptional human. She is a major force on this planet and somebody that I've only come to know fairly recently, but she and I are both pretty convinced that we've known each other many, many, many lifetimes. And I'm so glad that she's back in my life. So I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Alison J. She's an award-winning international best-selling author and the founder of the Vibrational Upgrade System. The Vibrational Upgrade System. She's an experienced subtle energies practitioner and a natural healer. And you'll see that the minute you hear her speak, even hearing her voice feels healing. Her approach is holistic, helping people thrive in mind, body, and spirit. And this has been reinforced by 10 years she spent studying subtle energies in Asia, with 20 years working in teaching yoga, meditation, energy medicine, mind-body fitness, longevity. You get the picture. Holistic health and working with the chakra system. She's got the all-round knowledge and training that I think we need to support us, to lift us, to shift us in this day and age with all the challenges that we have. And her mission is to support the next higher evolution of the collective and to create change for the health of this planet and those who are ready to unleash every part of the magic within them. Doesn't that sound fun? Dr. Alison, without any further ado, please join us so all these nice people can meet you. Hello, dear.
Hello. That was beautiful. A little bit of tears.
Oh, well, and deservedly so. And I forgot to mention that Dr. Alison is joining us from the other side of the planet. She's in the UK right now, aren't you?
Yeah, across the pond, little jaunt.
A little jaunt across the pond, yes. So, you know, Dr. Alison, when I'm introducing people to people on your level who have done so much and who are so clear in their purpose on the planet in terms of your work with others and what you're here to do, I always find myself wondering, and I know many people do, how did it all begin? What kind of a kid were you? Did you have any idea when you were a kid that you were going to become this amazing energy healer?
Wow, so humbling. That is receiving that reflection. Thank you.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, next question.
I didn't. So let me fill that in a little.
Okay, just a teeny bit more info.
So my mom is, neither of my parents are like gurus or highly, like dad was in the financial world. Mom was a paralegal, but she was intuitive, and dad tends to be empathic as well, as he learns increasingly. So mom, I'm age like 12, 13, 14, and she said to me one day when we're out on the wooden swing in the backyard, Alison, you're really good with people. You seem to have a natural understanding. Why don't you consider going into the field of psychology? So I had learned to trust my mom and her intuition on many occasions. I sat with that, and it was a yes. So I did. But third semester in, I realized they weren't answering the question about how do we thrive in mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
And how do we have the most fun adventure is life? Instead, it was all about problems and problem focused and hardwiring and proving itself as a science. So I switched majors and then began to, at the same time, I was taking a yoga class as my first elective freshman year in college. But
nice.
Yeah, I was always asking from there on in and have been receiving different methods all the way through. But I want to back up because I am naturally like this. I didn't have, Paula and listeners, I didn't have some big life tragedy that is my story and why I do this. And I know when I was a couple of years back, maybe 6 years back at this point, a couple of different PR firms had told me, you need to have a story. So let's find a crisis, you know?
You got to have your turning point story, right?
Come on, give us the plot line. Well,
Right.
clearly English lit major for 12 years. So when I was young, starting like in my age, I could walk. Alan, my older brother, and I used to go tromping through the woods, and he would go in front of me as boys do and jump on the broken limbs and just, you know, do the testosterone-driven destructive stuff and,
Right.
and playful. And I would be like connecting with everything, just feeling like no sense of that I was supposed to not experience myself as like those trees want me to reach out to them, and the dragonflies and the little clovers and the flowers and the critters swimming above the creek. Like everything was just connecting with me, and I was a part of it. And so I enhanced that sense of connection as a teen at some point, picking up writing in a journal. I did it on my own volition. I don't even remember anybody making a suggestion to do that. And that, as a meditation teacher years later, I came to understand is the way that I learned to connect with my higher self and the voice of my guidance. Mm-hmm. And so, and eventually I taught free writing in the classroom and then use it as a tool with some of my most advanced students to bring forward their own intuitive voice in a way that's helping them to find the gems and where the mental noise is, how to identify that and let that go and identify the gem from their intuitive guidance so they can discern the difference between the two. So I've always had this connection, and then I gained tools later with which to deliver this. Frankly, Paula, and you can handle this, and let's just have a conversation, and you guys get to listen in. I don't know that I've ever said this on an interview with anyone for the public before, but I'm different. And it's taken a lot for me to allow myself to recognize my difference. Like even when you were reading my intro and you said to me what you said to me about, or in my intro about my bio, it was still like, well, yeah, I have invested decades and I did make life choices that weren't easy because I had to listen to my guidance, because I had a couple of times in my early 20s when I didn't and saw the mayhem that got created when I didn't. So my guidance was, you know, do something different, uplift your life, go over to the other side of the planet and really go to the source of who understands how energy and consciousness work now that you've been doing this for about 10 something years. And all of that was cued by my question with my hands over a client, one of my earliest clients in an energy medicine and holistic health and wellness session. How do I get even more robust results for my clients? We were both really thrilled with what was happening, but I wanted better, more, faster, as the American that I am.
Right.
So that's what brought me over to Asia. So when I don't typically say is that it's challenging to present my work to the public, because as I'm so thrilled around 2018, 2019, I started to see more voices out there saying along the same lines that I had been saying, like we're going through a massive paradigm shift. The subtitle on my second book is, it's Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition. Radio show I had for 2.5 years with Voice America. I was interviewing specialists about 2012 to 2032 and really getting informed about what this massive evolutionary transition is about. And so around 2018, I started to see more voices coming online talking about not only the law of attraction, and God bless it for bringing forth in people's consciousness and awareness of how our thoughts are creating.
Right.
But I had somebody come on one of my free monthly calls a couple of years back and saying to me, and I have said this before in interviews, Dr. Alison, you're the real deal, when I called on her on the free monthly call. And I didn't know how to field that at first, because I was like, I'm really, really logical from all the years of meditating, as well as I think just who I innately am. So I call the work that I do is where logical magic becomes the new norm.
I love that. where logical magic becomes the new norm.
Yeah, it's like a higher order of logic infused with the divine's input.
Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels good to say and have you receive it that way. You identified it even, and when we were chatting ahead of time, before we hit record, and I have this really extraordinary connection. And now everybody, and I teach and attune students all the time to have the strengthening of their own connection that everybody has. We have I'm a yoga teacher trained in India. We have our crown chakra, as you know, that connects us to our higher self. And then above that are more of the 12 chakra system, where these are more the ones that connect with the divine.
Right.
So if that's the case, everybody can connect within their own system where they're designed to have a connection to something beyond the nattering of the mind at the everyday level. And it's called the ego, mind, and meditation. But to have, like on social media, when I'm saying something that could sound to someone the same as what somebody else is saying, to have people have the ability to discern that, you know, I may have been around Buddha, I may have been around Jesus. I say that with hesitancy. I don't say it a lot, like I said, but the connection, once people experience my work, and that's why I do impart a free monthly call, so people can feel what else is possible. They can feel getting lighter. So, because it goes beyond intellectual knowing, you know, and so like living from the intellect and living from the mind when we're scrolling on social media, it's not a way to have resilience, right? But when we're doing it before we get online, if we ask, how about, what would it look like if I were guided to just the perfect sources today of information? We would see some different kind of stuff flagging our consciousness. It wouldn't be that dulled down scroll, so that there'd be more ability from that connection getting activated just by your request to discern the difference between the noise and the genuineness. And I find that sometimes people who learn about the law of attraction and they try it for a month and they've done no work on purifying their consciousness and it doesn't work, then they say this stuff doesn't work. They feel bad about themselves or they give up. And then, like, I've done so much pickup from even big names in the field. People will have a non-expansive experience and then they'll come to me to kind of get the job done right. So so it's like I had my nose to the grindstone during this time, just like fully booked doing the work of service with a capital S. And it's just so phenomenal to me how the right people, when they're tuned in, like you and I, we hear each other. And you can't get there if you're just in the mind and if you're worried. And so this year and a half or so has been a time where I see so many people more awakened and out in their gardens and wanting more gentleness and wanting to, you know, nurture their health and tuning in to consciousness and meditation. And, you know, while it's been stress induced for a lot of people, why they're looking to meditation, at least they're looking into it. But I just feel like there's this honoring we do in the West of the intellect and of the mind, that it's not the primary tool for thriving moving forward into this new era. In the heart, it's beyond just the heart. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, in my mind, it's more than honoring the intellect. It's like glorification of the intellect.
No, being gentle. Thank you.
Yeah, like, you know, like minimizing the heart, minimizing all those other pieces. And I think that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing because we end up, you've seen them, I see them in my office all the time, people who are trying to logic their way through feelings, logic their way through their pain, through their grief. And we all know you cannot logic your way through a feeling. But we're trained, we're acculturated that something up here is going to save us. Some great idea or some insight is going to change it, shift it. And I'm going to take this moment right now to take a quick break, Dr. Alison. And when we come back, let's talk about that. How do we help people get out of the head and really understand the importance of this holistic being that we are and moving into that space of the heart? So we will be right back, and we're going to get into that. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio. I am here with Dr. Alison K, and on the edge of my seat, because we were just talking about how do we help people and how do we keep ourselves out of our heads totally and into our hearts and into the wholeness of our beings. So, Dr. Alison, how do we make that shift?
I'm sorry, it just froze for a moment, and now we're back.
Okay.
So I feel first, just the awareness of how dominant our ego mind is, and just an awareness of the cultural preferences of the West for the masculine, because the masculine is the logic and the figuring it out, and
Totally.
the yin and the feminine is the intuition, the seeding, the going quiet, the listening, the internal world. And it's funny what you just said before the break about how it's not rational. I have to tell, or not logical. I say so much of the time when I'm running clearings and I'm doing the mindfulness coaching, the applied mindfulness coaching, it's different than what is out there with mindfulness. So after I've run a clearing and activation and I'm helping activate the mindfulness in the new space that the person now has that's been cleared, they're expressing a lot of the time like some kind of surprise that they had that kind of, why would I think I'm not worthy when I want X, Y, and Z? Why would I do that to myself, for example? And so I respond with, because it's not logical. It's not rational.
Yes.
That's why you haven't been able to get there. And so it's beyond emotions. It's what I call the back of the house consciousness, the subconscious, the unconscious. And it's when it's like childlike logic. So it's irrational in a way, or it's really just a sweet, naive form of logic. Like when we're ages 0 to 8, from 0 to 2, don't even separate from mom and dad. Feel what they feel, think what they think. 2 to 8, that's no, terrible twos is when we start to form a separate identity. And then from 2 to 8, it's that period when we're looking around, how does life work? And so we're making these conclusions like, if I want that yummy feeling from mom, that beautiful smile from mom, how do I get that? Yeah. Well, older sister gets it doing X, so then if I do X, I will get that yummy feeling too. And maybe that X is dressing up like a little doll, and mommy really likes like beauty pageants. And even if that doesn't honor you, and later is a block that I come in and clear, it's still childlike logic. Like I get love the more dressed up and beautified I am as a female, right? So that's not logical. And if you were to say it out loud to somebody, you'd feel ashamed in a way as a woman who is supposed to be strong and independent and not a feminist, but beyond feminism. Right. So it's not rational. And so there's also so much that goes on. So here's something. What I was going to say is there's so much that goes on in the mind that is just static, that you don't need to be listening to. And so one of the most basic Buddhist premises are that every human mind is neurotic. And then it's like the tools are, here are the tools of 5,000 years with which to work with your own particular flavor of neuroses. Right. So you see how different that is from in the West, where we have a totem of the list of psychological disturbances and every little thing labeled with a diagnosis and then likely medication. It's just, my first book is What If There's Nothing Wrong? And it's written much from what I just said, that perspective. Yeah. Because we have this system. My second book saying Vibrational Upgrade, a conspiracy for your bliss. It's a conspiracy for your bliss because, for example, the third chakra has in it both the aspect of joy and the aspect of manifestation out onto the physical world. So we have a healthier digestive system, because that's where the third chakra sits. We have a healthier pancreas, because that's where the third chakra, as wheel is what chakra means from Sanskrit to English, turns the vital life force energy, or the chi, or the prana in the region of the body, affecting the organs and the endocrine gland it's surrounding. Then if we are both joyous about what we're manifesting out into the world, we'll have a healthier digestive system, for example. If we're miserable or not joyous about our cubicle job, that's a dry burnout job,
right,
then we'll have a less healthy third chakra. So our systems are designed for joy. They're designed for health and well-being. And the way we get there is not through our thinking mind, but going beyond our thinking mind, where we can access our connection to our higher self and to source and hear our heart. And it's just as simple as, does your thought that you just had make you feel heavy or contracted? Or does it make you feel light and smile like you just did?
Yeah.
And so the more you pay attention to it's almost counterintuitive to the way our society's noise and the background level operates in marketing, all the fear-based marketing. You have a problem, here's how you fix it with my product.
Yes.
And so if you realize that meditation is the act of being able to sit and observe your thoughts, and if you can even do that one time in 30 minutes, you've succeeded. If you can even just sit down for 30 minutes as if you're meditating, and even though you feel like you're not doing anything and you failed, you've still succeeded just by carving out that 30 minutes. That's aside the point right now, because we're not talking about meditation strictly. What I'm getting at is, if it's implied that if you can sit in a practice that has been done for over 5,000 years and observe your thoughts, who's doing the observing? So it implies you're more than just your thoughts.
Exactly.
So with the nature of the chaoticness that's a human, when humans don't work with their own mental management, the nature of the ego mind is to react with fear to the new and the changing, hence the chaos. So if you can ground in the understanding of everything I just said and contextualize it with the fact that we're going through all we're going through to get to a better place. And if you were to allow yourself to choose in a day what brings you joy, not your burdens, your obligations only, but like maybe attend to one less burden or one less obligation or one less responsibility and replace it with one thing that gives your heart joy, you will start to be able to come from your heart more and less from your mind with the shoulds. And then you will become increasingly more and more heart-led, and you'll get a flavor of, in a sense, of what it looks like to be making choices that honor your spirit, because both the Chinese and the yogic culture believe the spirit resides in the heart chakra.
So I have to ask you this question, because I can hear 20 women right now saying, but I have things I have to get done. I don't always have the opportunity or the ability to choose the things that give me joy or the things that make my heart feel good. What do you say to that?
I say, I hear you as a CEO of a 6-figure company, and I'm going to call bullshit on you.
Go on.
Because I see the choices even I make. Like, I watched as I became more Americanized and a business owner, it was easier for me to get, instead of the carved time I have out in the morning for my practices, it was easier for me to feel pulled into checking my inbox. I don't do that, but I watch the increasing compelling nature of living here in Western society that does not know how to honor the heart. So you're carving out new values, a new value system, which does require a bit more, like when you're going the first into a jungle with the machete, it's harder than when you're going the third or the 20th person and the path's already laid down for you. You can just follow it.
Yes.
So it isn't as easy as we would like it to be because of the conditioning and the expectations others project onto us, and our own conditioning and imprints from parents and blah, 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 that create the back of the house consciousness that makes you make the choices that you make and hear the shoulds and the responsibilities and the burdens as priority, and anything involving you and your joy is less priority.
Right. It's almost made to feel that's the part where you're being selfish. That's the part you feel some guilt about. And this, just to be clear for our listeners, this back of the house consciousness that you talk about, that's all the programming that goes into the subconscious, right?
And the unconscious too, Paula.
Unconscious.
Because I find like pulling myself up out of America and living over in Asia for 10 years, I was really able to observe some of the cultural unconscious conclusions I have from conditioning. So, for example, like the mind is what is the most valuable thing. Whereas over there, what was valued was preserving harmony in a group interaction. So energy or feelings were more valued. So there's unconscious biases, I hear it also referred to as, that the majority of the time people don't even know that they have. Right. So I just sat on a call last night with my masterminders, for example, and for my time it was till 2 a.m. But it was an extended call because, frankly, at one point I was just sitting back in awe of the fact that every single one of my masterminders was sitting there telling me that they were having results in their lives of what they had come in wanting with working with me. Person after person, and this was all women last night. Sometimes there's men in there. Woman after woman after woman was sitting there describing to me their successes and their gains, and that they weren't even just starting the path. They were actively on the path of creating the more desired life and asking for support to continue to have help diminishing the old patterns that hadn't yet lost momentum. Let's just put it that way.
I hear that.
Yeah. So it's beautiful. The clearings that, and I saw it as a direct relationship because one woman in particular is a very caring mental health specialist and has like a master's in mental health social work and blah, blah, blah. And has had the unconscious conclusions until we made him conscious, that, meaning until I ran clearings on her, that because I intuited she has some blockage that it's not supposed to be easy the way you earn your money. And so she then added in, it's supposed to involve sacrifice. It's supposed to involve strife. And she was going through that in a job she had just gotten when she went from my signature program, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, into the mastermind because she was invited in by me. So she let go of that job, but while working with me, we got the opportunity to have such a fertile land for me to clear. Like, you're not necessarily needing to have negativity in the workplace. That's not inherent to the workplace.
Yeah.
So there were all of these clearings that I was able to do for her and around money. So last night she was just sitting there. She'd had like a gift given to her from her boyfriend of money, had never asked for it. And he just saw how happy she was and wanted to have her have more of that. So he gave her a bulk of money to help her while she's in between jobs. She just applied for a dream job, actually, that she was like jumping out of her chair about. I was sitting there watching like the direct effect of clearing some of those unconscious beliefs that she didn't realize she had. And it's not about like spirituality. It's about earning her money.
Yeah.
So I don't separate like the spiritual and the mundane. It's meant right now to be rebalancing so that the sacred is infused in like your food choices, in how you make your money, and how you spend your money, and who you spend time with, and what you don't watch, and what you do watch, and what you do listen to. It's not meant to be for like the mountaintop or the retreats or the yoga class or the church. It's so spirit infused, like we were talking about, to have more resilience is, I know that you have a stronger immune system, the more life force is able to flow throughout your system.
Right.
Because overall, an open spinning chakra that has had this back of the house consciousness cleared, because every clearing I do relates to a certain aspect of life. So money and suffering in order to earn it would relate to the first and the third, for starters, somewhat the fourth and somewhat the fifth too. So as I run these clearings, it's not just the head, it relates to the relevant chakra that covers the domain of life. So then that chakra gets more opened and more open. And as we have really open chakras, they create a field. And that field is resilient. That field contains immunity. So the more that we can do this kind of tuning inward and turning inward, I mean, that's where your power is. That's where our power is. It's not over what that person's doing that bugs the shit out of you. It's over why you're triggered. And I don't mean to say people don't do annoying stuff that triggers you, because I mean, that's a reality.
Hell yeah.
Let's keep it in balance. This isn't all about you having to do all the work and everybody else gets to walk around not, and you're not supposed to be triggered when they're blatantly acting annoying or obnoxious or doing something abusive. So nonetheless, working with one's own consciousness is where your power is at, because then you'll feel more that sense of, I don't mean to say control, but what the mind thinks of as control. So when we're in this new time and the mind's afraid because it doesn't feel like it has control over all of this new and unknown, if you do this inner work, you will have that sense of control.
Yes.
Which
but
will
not
create
not a desperate sense, though, right? Just more like just a natural control is what I think I hear you saying.
Yeah, a sense of the embodiment of all is well.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Say that again.
A sense of the embodiment that all is well. I recorded, I pulled out of a session with another one of my masterminders from Germany, and I think it was a session 1 or 2 weeks ago. And she came to me with a very worried, anxious mind. As a mom of 2 young, early 20s boys, and doing a great job. They both were going off into the world successfully, and yet she had a tendency to, in her third chakra, be empathic and absorb their be the anchor in the household as mom, wife, right? And so we worked on that a lot, and she's been working with me, I think now for 2 years. And in that session, within 2 weeks ago, she and I were talking, and what she was describing was, I said to her, Claudia, you're describing to me peace of heart. You're describing to me not worrying, but all the way to the other end of the spectrum, the actual embodiment of knowing all of life is happening for you, not to you, and that no matter what, all is well. And it's just such it's so challenging for people to appreciate that, because it's it goes intellectual.
Yes.
Until it's embodied, and then it's like,
yeah,
it's hardly different.
That's such a beautiful distinction that you made there. It goes intellectual until it's embodied, because I know I've had those moments when it's just like there's no good reason to feel as good as I feel, but I just feel it. It's like everything just comes together and within your being. And it's kind of like, I think there was a book out a while back, Happy for No Reason.
Yeah.
It's just kind of that. It's just that. I love how you put that, you embody it, and it's not because it makes sense necessarily, or because you can, in some linear way, identify all the reasons that you feel happy, or that you just feel good, that you
Can I ask
that
you a question?
All is well. Sure.
Why is there a need to justify or rationalize or explain why you feel good?
Oh, I think people
Why
do
is there
it all
not
the
a natural
time.
inherent acceptance of feeling
I know.
good?
I'm totally with you on that one. Yes. And I think it comes back to a kind of conditioning. Like I can remember as a child being asked, why did you do that? And I would say, well, I don't know. I just felt like it. That's not a good reason. That's not okay. If it was like, if you couldn't explain it in a linear intellectual way, that wasn't okay. And I think that lesson runs deep.
I was just following my intuition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Try that one on your mother.
You're having a punishment loop overhead. Yeah.
I have a niece who I think will probably come up with something like that one of these days. She's just kind of at one with everything, and she's just such a sweet little being. She probably, actually, both my nieces they have incredible parents, and they're being raised in this beautiful way. I think they could be those people that will just go, I don't know, but I'm just grateful I feel this way. I don't have any good reasons. And you know what, Dr. Allison, I could spend hours chatting with you like this. And unfortunately, we do have some time constraints, and I want you to get a hot dinner. So let me ask one more thing for any of our listeners who are going, okay, I'm in my head all the time. I'm always trying to logic my way through everything. But I like what they're saying. I like this idea of just feeling my reality, being one with it. What would you say is one thing people could begin doing every day, maybe, or just begin doing to start making that shift?
Okay. So I already gave one thing before, where it was when you have a responsibility and a burden, you have a list of 5. Mm-hmm. I want you to knock off one of the 5 and replace it with something you want to do.
Okay. Something that makes you feel good, right?
Exactly that. That you may feel like you have to rationalize or justify, why would I do that when this will earn me this kind of money, or this will earn me this kind of tangible outcome? Why would I do something like that that's an intangible? Right. When you hear that, do it anyway. My first meditation teacher gave me a great piece of advice. Do the exact opposite of what your mind wants to do.
Ooh, I love that.
So there's another one. There's a third one too that I walk people through in the third module on magic, manifestation, and money flow. And I really feel like this is a turning point for every person when they get to this module. And it is so beautiful. I'm going to give you the short version of it. And it's a way to connect you to connect yourself to the field of unlimited possibilities.
Okay.
Which is another way of saying the Tao. So go out to a tree and project your heart at the tree. Mm-hmm. Your arms are down to your side, or your arms can be out to the side, wide open. And I want you to think of like an infant, your child when they were cute and cuddly, or a time where you and your partner or spouse had a soaring lovemaking session, or just something that is of a good feeling. Mm-hmm. And stand there and watch the tree. Now, I want to be clear, like when we do the thing with animal medicine and we have animals show up, and if it's like in their habitat, we don't want to like project, you're animal medicine and an animal totem for me. We want to understand that like we're in their habitat. So if there's a breeze going in the trees above where you're standing, just wait until the trees are still.
Okay.
And then I want you to see the leaves right in front of you, closest to you. Just do a little twinkle, just a little wave.
Okay.
Then that's proving to your connection to all that is. That's proving to your heart having more opening. That interaction will bring in a lot more that I'm going to explain right now. So there's 3 things.
That sounds wonderful. I'm looking at the trees in my backyard right now and thinking, okay, we're going to talk.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. So just connecting on kind of an interior, intuitive, just feeling level.
Yeah, I don't even want to put those words on it, honestly, Paula, except the last word, the feeling word. And that's why I seemed to go towards, I mean, you could just stand there. If you can get to quiet mind, you could just stand there. But as long as you're having your heart beam, and I don't want to make that more complicated. So one way to have your heart beam and the tree can hear you is if you think of something that makes your heart soar. That's why I gave you the examples that I gave you.
I see, because that's probably taking your vibration to a level where you're more in tune with the tree, eh?
Yeah.
I love that. All right, Dr. Alison, I would be very remiss if I didn't allow our listeners to find out how to learn more about you or get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you. So can you give us that information, please?
Yeah. My latest book is called Dragon Master Creatrix. It's on Amazon. If you go to my website, which is vibrationalupgrade.com,
vibrationalupgrade.com. Mm-hmm.
and you actually put in Dragon Master Creatrix.com, you can see that if you buy that book, you're going to get an offer of some free stuff from me.
Ah.
Yeah. So I have a Facebook group, Vibrational Upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
I have
do you still have the free call that you mentioned earlier in the show?
Yeah, I have that tomorrow night. Our tomorrow night. So you all are going to be listening to this, the last week of October. And I'm over here in Glastonbury, UK, which is considered the heart chakra of the planet.
Oh, I know. I've been there.
And then Samhain time, or Samhain, or All Hallows Eve, or Halloween is when they connect in with the ancestors, when we connect in with the ancestors. And the veil is considered to be thinner here anyway, but then you add in Halloween and the veil separating metaphysical to physical is much thinner. So it's another good time for you to be able to access if you come on the free monthly call, it's every Thursday, the last Thursday of the month. And then I believe that you get the replay to the previous months. So in October, when you're listening to this, you're probably going to be listening to this before the Thursday. Go to my website, vibrationalupgrade.com, and then look to the far right. New, start here. That's the free monthly call.
Very good. So that's a wonderful way. Pardon?
Was that understandable?
Yeah. I think, and that's a great way for people to be introduced to your work, to just experiencing you, which is such a treat. And all of that info will also be in the show notes. So if you go to changeitupradio.com and click on Dr. Alison's show, all that information about how to reach out to her, how to experience her will be there. So,
yeah, I do activations on every free monthly call, and I call on people. So if you have a need and you want to get some work done on yourself, that's where you can start.
Oh, fabulous. All right. Dr. Alison, you know I love you, and I'm so delighted you're in my life. And thank you for honoring me and my show today. It was so wonderful being with you. I just wish we had 5 more hours.
It's been my honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me. It's been a really enriching time with you. I enjoyed it and look forward to more.
Me too. Me too.
Namaste.
Namaste. And thank you to our listeners. You know, you can hear us on every major podcast platform, including iHeartRadio and Blog Talk Radio. And we'll see you next week. We'll be back with another amazing guest. For now, bye-bye. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.